Welcome back. We continue our conversation now with Governor Ned Lamont. Governor, I want to ask you about the gun bill that got so much fanfare when it was passed. You very quickly moved to sign it. There were challenges promised, and we already see a lawsuit has been filed now challenging that. Knowing that a challenge would come, why did you think it was necessary to take those steps?
If you're not serious about gun safety, you're not serious about crime. And public safety is one of my #1 responsibilities. We started out by adding on more state police, giving them more pay, more money to the municipalities, like we said in the last session. Hopefully they're adding on more police, more illegal guns on the street than ever before. In many cases, our cops are getting outgunned. So this bill, thank you, Steve Stastrom and Gary Winfield, really goes at those illegal guns, getting them off the street. And then secondly, it also is an anti-crime in the sense of those repeat gun offenders, getting them off the street as well.
The critics of this, not even talking about the lawsuit that says it's abridging Second Amendment rights by disallowing open carry and things like that, but just critics have said the people abiding by the laws are the people being targeted here, that law-abiding gun owners are the target and not criminals. How do you respond to those
I think
complaints?
It's nonsense. Look, very strictly, those people who have already been convicted of a gun crime are much more likely to have to pay higher bail and less likely to get on the street. We're going after those folks with the illegal guns, not the legal guns.
And your folks are confident that this bill will survive the legal challenge?
If it doesn't, we'll make any changes we got to. I'm very confident. Look, everybody sues you in this game these days. We're going to be okay.
Let's talk early voting. That's another big change. People will see that coming in the 2024 election. Is that something that people should be excited about, relieved? I mean, so many other states have been doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie Thomas, and before her, Denise Merrill. You're right. Almost every other state has early voting. I don't know why we were a laggard there, but no longer. So now you've got 2 weeks in advance. So if you're a guy that commutes or doesn't have that time that particular day, we're making it easier for you to vote and vote with integrity.
Talking as a candidate for a second, do you think it changes the game of politics a little bit, that it's not everything leading up to that one day anymore? Like, just think back to last election. Do you think it would have changed your strategy, having the period of early voting?
It wouldn't have changed my strategy. Maybe you don't worry about doing something very stupid right before the election because half the people have voted. I don't know. Nah, it doesn't change your strategy.
All right, well, we'll see that for 2024.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about some other things. One thing is $80 million for the XL Center. Moving towards the renovations there. You were outspoken in the last few weeks saying that you'd like the Coyotes to come up from Arizona and play. Is that a pipe dream? Is there any chance of that happening? And does the XL Center renovation play into that?
It's not a pipe dream. It's uphill, but we're better ready than really anybody else. We've got an ownership group that's ready to come in if somebody wants to sell. We're ready to upgrade the XL Center, make sure it's NHL ready. People know that this is a hockey state, right? We have the national champions down there at Quinnipiac. People are ready. You know, you got the Bruins next door. You got the Rangers and Islanders. I think it'd be a really important, interesting, popular hockey epicenter.
Now, many people say that you just can't pull it off. But if you don't, is the $80 million for the XL Center still well spent?
It is. Look, we still have championship UConn basketball there, some hockey. It's really important we make the XL Center competitive. So, the $100 million we've gotten there, because we also have a partner. I didn't want it all being done by the taxpayers. We'll at least make the lower loges very professional in a nice entertainment center nearby.
Let's talk about it. We talked about teachers protesting the budget at one point. Home caregivers did as well. In fact, there was civil disobedience where they shut down some streets in Hartford in protest. They wanted to get to $25 an hour as their pay rate. There were some things in your budget that kind of helped them, but they didn't get everything they wanted. What's your message to those folks?
They are essential workers who took care of folks who have most in need, all during COVID. Thank you for that. We've taken that minimum wage. A lot of them were getting close to minimum wage before. That's up almost 40%. We've got well over $100 million really focused on the group homes. A lot of that's going to go to bonus and pay increases. I can't solve for 30 years of underfunding in one budget, but we're making real progress because we appreciate who you are.
And there's a deal as well with the Connecticut Hospital Association to get some changes to health care. Can you give us a couple highlights of that and how it might help people?
Yeah, hospitalizations of pharmaceuticals, that's what drives up the cost of health care. So when it comes to the hospitals, thank you. They came to the table. Most important to me was the anti-steering, which means there are many places where you get much better value for the dollar, both in terms of quality, and now insurance companies aren't restricted. They can direct you to places where you get the most value. That's going to save you money and provide you better care.
One thing you talked a lot about in your budget address was affordable housing. You talked $600 million, a lot about it. What did you get in that area, and what can you do? Because this is such a problem in so many parts of our state. The news stories just keep coming of sort of not in my backyard, killing a proposal. What can you do to get that affordable housing done?
Give people incentives to do the right thing. Every single business I talk to says, you may have the great workforce in the world, but if there's no place for them to live, I'm not going to locate my business here or expand my business. So I put in $600 million for the next 2 years. I think the legislature upped that a little bit. A lot of that is workforce housing. Put in that gap financing because mortgage rates are going up a little bit right now. Make it easier and faster for developers to develop housing, mainly in downtown areas, hopefully close to rail stations.
Speaking of rail, Shoreline East, some people who ride Shoreline East felt a little slighted by potential cuts and changes to the service. Still, at this point, we're only 30% of pre-pandemic capacity, 86% on Metro North. Do we need to get people back onto the rails, and what does your budget do for that?
Well, for Shoreline East, it's pretty empty during the middle of the day. Not much there on Fridays, even Mondays. So we had to scale that back a little bit, redeploy those resources. But as I told Christine Cohen and all the advocates, let's get some more housing in and around the rail stations, up and down the Shoreline East, coastal area. And when we see the demand, we'll provide the rail.
We only have about 30 seconds left. You've been through this grueling process here, as you've done in the past. Just one last message to the people watching this morning about what ended up out of this session.
I think you should be proud of your legislature. I look what's the civil wars going on in other states. Folks work together. The chair people work with the ranking members, Republicans and Democrats. They came together. They set their priorities. We got an honestly balanced budget that I think positions our state well for the foreseeable future.
And certainly we had many of the players on this show, and you're right. They disagree on the issues, but certainly not a lot of sniping back and forth. So probably a good outcome for the people of Connecticut. Governor Ned Lamont, thank you so much for joining us here on CT23.
Thanks, Eric.
We'll have you back.